Hey everyone, my name is Shanice and welcome back to my channel. Finally, I am back with the next installment in this book recommendations based on Beatles albums series, if you will. Now I'm on album 4, which was called Beatles for Sale, and it was released on December 4th, 1964. It has 14 tracks. 8 tracks are original tracks written by Paul McCartney and John Lennon, and 6 of them are covers. It had the 2 non-single tracks, She's a Woman, which is phenomenal. I actually think is better than a lot of the songs on the album. And the other non-single track, I Feel Fine. It was finished in 5 weeks, and the cover shop, which is one of my favorite Beatles covers ever. I love kind of minimalist photography. It seems like a really nice candid shots, really beautiful colors here. It was shot by Robert Freeman. This album kind of stylistically took a shift. It incorporated a lot more country and folk music. There are some heavy Bob Dylan influences here. It incorporated a fade-in one of the tracks, some guitar feedback, some unique percussive elements, and John Lennon, the tracks that he mainly wrote, took a more introspective kind of storyteller's vision on them. Less generalization and more internal focus, which I think made a huge difference. And so this album generally, tonally, I would say, is a little darker, a little bit sadder, more melancholic. So you'll see that a lot of the books I pick here are a bit harrowing and sad and pensive and introspective and all of that, which is fantastic too. And so let's just begin with track 1, one of my favorite tracks from the album, a song called No Reply, written and sung by John Lennon. It is sung from the perspective of a guy who is trying to get in touch with his girlfriend. He's calling her, but she's not picking up, even though it seems like he's right outside her building and he can see that she's there, the light is on. He can also see that she's leaving with some other guy, so she's cheating on him, and he knows, and he's also aware that she's just lying to his face. And so for my recommendation, I'm choosing a book that kind of takes the whole extramarital affair or the cheating kind of theme and twist it a little bit in terms of perspective. So I am recommending Giovanni's Room, which was published in 1956 and written by the incredible James Baldwin. So the novel is mainly about this man called David. He has a girlfriend named Hella, and she leaves to go to Spain to contemplate their relationship. And he goes to Paris. And while he's in Paris, he meets this Italian bartender whose name is Giovanni, and they have an affair, and the novel goes through kind of this tumultuous but very beautiful relationship that David has with Giovanni as well as other people. And not to spoil anything, but let's just say Hella, the girlfriend, at some point may or may not find out, and how she finds out sort of reflects the message and the story depicted in the song No Reply. Not exactly, but I think generally the bigger themes match up really well. And it's always just a good excuse to just recommend some James Baldwin. Track number 2 is another one sung and written by John Lennon, and it's called I'm a Loser. This one is very introspective, self-probing. It looks at people's insecurities and the masks that we put on to the world and even to ourselves. How in this case a rejection or a breakup, there's this period where you feel sort of proud, and then it slowly transitions into a bit of humility, more self-examination, maybe seeing what you could have done wrong, what didn't go right. And I feel like this song embodies that. There is a line in here that says, so it's true that pride comes before the fall. I feel like this song and the book that I'm about to recommend kind of explore that transition period between the pride and the fall. And so I'm recommending one of the best books I've ever read. It's called The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro, one of my favorite writers. It was published in 1989 and also won the Man Booker Prize. It tells a story of Stevens, who was a butler. He took a lot of pride in his craft, in his career. He was very reserved but dutiful, and so the novel is from his perspective as he reminisces about his time working for a previous employer. And in retrospect, he's kind of seeing the maybe not so great things that that former employer did that he himself excused. And I think the part that most reflects the song is in his descriptions of Miss Kenton, who was the housekeeper who worked at this Darlington estate during the time when Stephen was also working there. And it's evident that they definitely had feelings for each other, but because of Stephen's kind of rigidity and his reserved nature, and the way that he almost tried to deceive himself from ever pursuing Miss Kenton or allowing himself to just actually fall in love and feel all the emotions. I think this and the song are definitely explorations of the masks that we put on ourselves and to others, and dealing with the reality that you can't be with someone, whether it is rejection or whether it's never having pursued anything because of your fear of rejection. And again, the lies that we tell ourselves. So yeah, great book, great song. Track number 3 is a waltz called Babies in Black, written and sung by John Lennon and Paul McCartney. This one is from the perspective of a guy who's in a relationship with a girl who's still grieving the loss of someone, presumably an ex. Think of it as, I guess, the male perspective of, let's say, a song like Ariana Grande's Ghosting, which probably is the first time that any comparison has ever been made between the Beatles and Ariana Grande. But basically, the guy, the boyfriend, is not only sad because his girlfriend is sad, but also because he feels like he can't do anything. He's sad for her, but he's also sad for himself because he's in a situation where his girlfriend is crying over somebody else still. And so what I am recommending is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell, which was published in 2020 and won the Women's Prize for Fiction. This is the fictionalized version of the story of Hamnet, who in real life was the son of Shakespeare and his wife Anne. In the book, Anne is Agnes, and her husband is never named, but it's obvious that it's supposed to be Shakespeare. He is gaining a lot of fame for his plays. He lives in the city, she lives in the countryside. She's very in touch with nature. She has like sort of magical powers that everyone around her is afraid of. But, you know, there's some beauty in this close relationship that she has with Shakespeare. They have a son named Hamnet, and he falls very ill. This is set during the Black Plague, and I don't think it's a spoiler to say that Hamnet eventually does die because of his illness, and Agnes and Shakespeare are both distraught, but especially Agnes as the mother. I think this fits with the song because I could see someone like Shakespeare or the husband figure in this story feeling this very way, of course personally because he just lost a son, but also to have the added grief of seeing another loved one grieve so much over, his son. The novel and the song are about the different ways that we all grieve and mourn, approach our own traumas and sense of loss. Track number 4 is a cover song. It's called Rock and Roll Music, originally written and performed by Chuck Berry, but this time sung by John Lennon. And it's pretty straightforward. It's about loving rock and roll music. And the Beatles have a lot of these types of songs, cover songs mainly, but just songs about how they love rock and roll, how they love this kind of music, songs about love generally, songs about breakups generally. So sometimes it's a little hard to recommend books just because these are quite broad themes. So my approach for this recommendation is to take kind of the genesis of rock and roll, which is a blend of a lot of different genres, originating in a lot of different cities and places. You know, it has elements of R&B and blues and also rock. You can incorporate jazz, you can incorporate just so many different genres into rock and roll music. It's a malleable genre. It's fresh and new at the time when, these songs were being written and performed. So I decided to go with one of my favorite novels of all time. I don't think I've spoken about it on this channel before. It's called Girl, Woman, Other, written by Bernardine Evaristo, and it's was one of the co-winners of the Man Booker Prize. Feel like it should have been the sole winner, but that's another discussion. And the reason why I chose this is because I think it does have a fresh, new sort of style, a different voice. It takes various perspectives and blends them all together to form this whole novel. You can see it has various influences. It does talk about intersectionality. It is very open with its exploration of people's roots, of intergenerational exchange. I think it's very inventive. And like the song, which says part of what the singer likes about rock and roll is that it has a backbeat that kind of centers the song. This book too has this central theme that ties together the, I think, 12 various perspectives. Essentially, it looks at 12 different Black British women and how their stories intertwine. In the beginning, you don't really see how they're going to intertwine, but by the end, it all becomes like this chorus of Black women sharing their voices. So it's a phenomenal book, and I think that out of many, one kind of theme fits the book and the song really well. Track number 5 is called I'll Follow the Sun. It was written and sung by Paul McCartney, and in short, it's about enjoying the now, the present, the people around you that you love, because at any moment they can go away. They might not be here in the next second, the next day, the next year. You just never know when it's going to be your last moment with them. So my recommendation is The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. This is a nonfiction in which she shares her experience. In 2003, her husband passed away. Shortly before he passed away, though, her and her husband were dealing with all the emotions of their daughter's serious illness, serious and very sudden illness, where Joan thought that that was the problem, and the possibility was that her daughter might pass away the next second her husband passes away, and it's her daughter who survives in the end. So the book just deals with her grieving process in a very open and honest way, and I think in its own bluntness there is an optimism of, again, just appreciating what you have now, because you never know what's going to happen the next second. And I think the book can definitely provide like a sense of catharsis for people who need it. So track number 6 is called Mr. Moonlight. It's a cover originally written by Roy Lee Johnson and here sung by John Lennon. I think generally speaking it's about faith. Basically, the singer is asking Mr. Moonlight, you can interpret it as God, I did, or, you know, some sort of spiritual deity or someone from above, you know. He's telling them that, you know, whenever they prayed and asked Mr. Moonlight before, he gave them, you know, whatever they wanted, like a beautiful girl, and it seems like sort of this Mr. Moonlight hasn't answered, and so the singer's getting a little bit more desperate about wanting to pray and get Mr. Moonlight to give him what he wants. So the book that I am recommending is a short story collection that was published in 2020. It's by Disha Philyaw, and it's called The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. It has 9 stories centered on Black women who are all in some way kind of grappling with their identity and what they grew up learning in church and in their faith. And so yeah, there's this tug of war between their desires, their who they want to love, who they want to be, and the dogma, the rules, I guess, of institutionalized religion, and how crushing it could be, you know, if you actually do believe in a sort of faith, having that directly contradict who you are, what your nature is. It's definitely a struggle for people. And so I think this short story collection just does it really well. It does focus on the complexities and the nuances of characters who, again, just love their faith, but also love who they love and want to love who they love, and can recognize the problems in their own religious teachings. I'm really excited, too, that it turns out that Tessa Thompson I think bought the rights to this collection, and it's going to be adapted into a TV series So cannot wait for that. I love Tessa Thompson and I love the short story collection. Track number 7 is actually a medley of both the song Kansas City, which was originally written by Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller, and another song called Hey 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 Hey, originally written by Little Richard. Paul McCartney sings it in a sort of affected voice. He sings kind of in the style of Little Richard. And so the medley is about new beginnings, fresh starts, you know, the possibility of meeting new girls and all of that. So it's like Kansas City is the goodbye song, and the hey, 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 hey part is the welcome into the new environment, I guess. So my book recommendation is another short story collection. It's Unaccustomed Earth by Jhumpa Lahiri. I actually just finished reading this last month. I think the song, the message fits really well with this collection because it's all about people leaving where they're originally from and moving elsewhere as immigrants, about not feeling like you belong where you are, and wanting to find yourself somewhere else. Track number 8 is conveniently called 8 Days a Week. It was written and sung by Paul McCartney and John Lennon, and it's about an overwhelming sensation of love for someone. They love them 8 days a week. And so, because this is so overwhelmingly about love, I chose the poetry collection Island Heart by Ida Faubert, another book that I recently read. Ida in this work is unabashedly in love, in passion, in desire for everything around her, nature, relationships. If she's not in love, then she's vigorously feeling grief or loss or sadness for the loss of her daughter, etc. So if you just want a sense of overwhelming emotions, I think this poetry collection is definitely the way to go. The next song is called Words of Love, originally written by Buddy Holly and sung by John Lennon and Paul McCartney. It is pretty much what it says it is. It is a song about love, about words of love, about whispers of love. I could have easily also recommended Island Heart for this one because whispers are definitely a part of that poetry collection, but I'm going to go with Sirens and Muses by Antonia Angris. This, generally speaking, is about a group of art students at an elite art school in New York City. They are grappling with post-recession financial worries. Occupy Wall Street is going on. And it's this capitalist society, those views clashing with their kind of pure artistic spirit and philosophy. And I think a lot of the song here focuses on this fantastical, really pure sense of love and needing these soothing, optimistic words to get them through the day. And I feel like these art students, in order to find peace and tranquility and purpose, they need to stay true to these maybe purist and idealist views of their artwork and the purpose that their art serves in this kind of crashing society around them. So yeah, I think there's this sense of idealism in both the song and these art students at the center of this novel. And also there is just a lot of love. There are love triangles in here, a lot of relationships that kind of go awry. But yeah, a lot of passion, a lot of convictions also within the song and book, so I highly recommend. Next, we have a song that may be one of my least favorite on the album, unfortunately. It's called Honey Don't. It was sung by Ringo and originally written by Carl Perkins. This one is from the perspective of a guy who seems to be, you know, very controlling of his girlfriend. He doesn't understand why she changes her mind about things. He seems to just openly tell her that he likes her one moment, doesn't like her the next. He likes her clothing, he hates it the next day. It's a mess. Keeping that in mind, the book I'm going to recommend is called Bastard Out of Carolina by Dorothy Allison, and we see the world in this novel from the perspective of a young girl named Bone. Her real name is Ruth, but her nickname is Bone. And we just observe all the misogyny, all the troubles that she faces growing up in South Carolina, in poverty, surrounded, just like I said, by men who judge her, who abuse her, It is harrowing, obviously, but there's a beauty to her resilience through it all. Track number 11 is called Every Little Thing. It was written and sung by John Lennon and Paul McCartney, and this is about a guy in a relationship who's just in love with every detail of his girlfriend. He thinks that she's so wonderful and she makes his life even better, and he just can't stop thinking about her and how amazing she is. So I am going to go with a relationship that's fresh in my mind because I recently finished this book. And it might be a funny recommendation just because this is book 2 in a series, and I don't know what happens with these two in the other books in the series, so who knows, maybe they end up crashing and burning. But the book I'm recommending is A Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin. Like I said, book 2 in A Song of Ice and Fire. And the relationship I was thinking of was actually Tyrion and Shay. I think it's adorable just how much Tyrion loves Shay. She obviously makes him feel so much better about his quite terrible situation. In book 2, he is serving as the hand of the king. The king is the lunatic Joffrey, and so he's having a tough time. Shay makes him happier, and I think it's cute. I think she does love him. Again, I don't know what happens in the other books. Maybe she's pretending, who knows, but book 1 and book 2, it just seems like a very sweet little relationship, and a nice respite from the drama of all the politics going on in the books. So yeah, I'm choosing A Clash of Kings. I loved the book, and yeah, I think they're a cute little duo. Then track 12 is called I Don't Want to Spoil a Party, written by and sung by John Lennon and Paul McCartney. It's from the perspective of a guy in a relationship. He is supposed to meet a girl at a party. He is stood up by this said girl, and he wants to leave the party because he doesn't want his sadness to ruin everyone else's fun. This social anxiety, this hyper awareness of what other people are thinking and how you affect the room and how you want to just exit the premises because it's awkward now. I couldn't think of any other author to pick but Sally Rooney, and this one is Beautiful World, Where Are You? I distinctly remember a scene where someone is in the bathroom, like feeling extremely anxious about going out and actually having to talk to people and having to live in their awkward skin, and I can relate to that so much. You know, the characters in this book fall in and out of love, in and out of relationships. There is this constant anxiety and turmoil about what people are thinking about me, and I mean, I think it's fantastic. I love Sally Rooney, and yeah, I think the frenetic internal energy of the song matches a lot of what the characters are going through in a book like Beautiful World, Where Are You? Track number 13 is What You're Doing, and it was written by and sung by Paul McCartney. This sort of tells the story of a time during his and Jane's relationship. It was kind of in turmoil. Yeah, this is one of the downs in the relationship. It seems like in the song he's waiting for the girl to tell him that she loves him. He's waiting for her to do more, I guess. And so the book that I am choosing is called Cleopatra and Frankenstein, and it's by Coco Mellors. This is a recent publication. This was published last year, and this tells the story of the really rapid falling in love of Cleo, who moves from England to New York, and this older guy named Frank. They get married really quickly, and obviously things go wrong. Things go very wrong. There are ups, there are downs, and certainly there are downs. And track number 14, the last song on the album, was sung by George Harrison. I guess I just love George Harrison because this song is one of my favorites on the album. The songs sung by him tend to be some of my favorites on the album, and I'm taking a bit of a cheeky approach in my recommendation here. I went off the line, well, they took some honey from a tree, dressed it up, and they called it Me. And just the general idea of, oh, everyone now wants to be with me, everyone suddenly thinks that I'm okay. And I guess in the spirit of Black History Month, my recommendation is called White Negroes, and it's by Lauren Michelle Jackson. this talks about cultural appropriation. And I guess you could say it's sort of ironic because, you know, a lot of the songs on this album itself are covers from songs from black artists. I love the Beatles, and I don't necessarily think that what they were doing was cultural appropriation at all. I think it was a lot of appreciation, but other people have different opinions, and I think that's okay too. But this is an essay collection, and it's brilliant, really funny, really witty, and I think if you're interested in learning more about cultural appropriation, then this is the way to go. And again, kind of a cheeky recommendation for this closing track. And that is all. I always love making these Beatles videos because I'm, you know, still progressing in their entire discography. So I'm very excited for the next album. Let me know if you've read any of these books. I'm really curious to see if maybe you had different opinions than me on them. I quite liked the books I recommended, obviously. But please let me know down below what you think. And yeah, I will see you all next time. Thank you so much for all this support I've been getting on my channel. It really means the world to me. And yeah, I hope I can keep making videos that you guys like and that, you know, inspires you to add new books to your shelves. So yeah, thank you so much, and I will see you all next time. Bye.